We live. It says pause due to poor connection, but we should be alright. Is that the best Wi-Fi in anything?
Yes, it is.
Alright, cool. I'm at Cameron Chestnuts Clinic. BenGreenfieldFitness.com/clinic5C. That's a number 5 and the letter C, just like Sesame Street. If you want to learn more about what Cameron does at his clinic. You can also, if you go to like Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever, and you Google, then a bunch of other links to podcasts that I've done with Cameron. Say hello, Cameron.
What's up, guys? Welcome. Welcome to clinic.
Yeah, we do all sorts of crazy stuff here. My wife's here too. This is why my wife and I look like we're 16. We're the camera, so we get shit done. Anyways, though, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna do an Instagram Live for y'all. And while Cameron's working on me, my wife's gonna be holding the phone, and you guys can ask any and all beauty and anti-aging questions. I told her that if the questions are irrelevant or just a waste of time, like 19 Yasha 89 says, I'm pooping outside barefoot. We will not really pay much attention to that. But if you guys have questions about what can PRP, gray hair, hair growth, beard growth, I don't know, teeth, zits, blackheads, you name it. Like, just toss your stuff out there. We're going to make this Instagram Live basically just like a cornucopia. How's that work?
I love it. I like to throw that in all my essays.
It is almost Thanksgiving, so. Cornucopia of goodness. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the camera around. Jessa, you ready for this?
Yes.
Have you ever done this before? Where you just see these little questions that come by here?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just, anytime somebody asks an interesting question, just shout it out, and Cameron and I will do our best as we're working, because we're really good at multitasking, to kind of like help you guys out as we go. So, I don't know my teeth. I got like spinach in my teeth or something. I didn't even have spinach for once. I got spinach in my teeth. That's weird. Yeah. Alright, so don't ask me questions about my left tooth. Someone says for depression. Are those the kind of questions we won't answer? Those are the kind of questions we won't answer, you guys. Beauty, anti-aging, coronavirus vaccines make you age faster, someone says. Questions like that also we'll generally avoid. Okay, so let me flip this around.
It's only been out like 3 months.
Woo! Oh, I can even see the tripod. It's like my phone has a penis. All right, cool.
Let's flip it around.
All right, we're going to do a quick tech adjustment. Cameron has the hand. He's really good at this.
There we go.
Try this.
Yeah.
Flip it.
Just go.
Tripod.
Sounds good.
I think we just don't use the tripod.
Okay.
Too much keeps pausing due to poor connection, but we're going to roll with it anyways.
Okay. There we go.
All right. That's the chair, you guys. All right. Then we get that. Cameron killed a rabbit. Cameron killed a rabbit.
My first animal.
All right. Here we go, guys.
Ben taught me how to shoot it with a bow.
And don't worry, if you guys got a boogie and go to work or go do something important with your Friday night, we'll record this whole thing. Just keep on rolling.
Okay.
We'll roll with it. Just don't like stop the. Do you want me sitting here, by the way?
Yeah, let's sit down. Let's do it. We're gonna rock
All right.
and roll. Do the blood draw first.
We're gonna do a blood draw first. Do you want me to repeat everything you said? Projected towards the camera.
If you feel that is necessary.
All right. So Cameron, why are we going to do a blood draw?
So this is our third PRP treatment for your hair growth so far. So that puts us about, I'm not sure exactly the date of the first one, but I think we're going back about 3 months now, which is great because that's about the duration of our hair cycles. They last about that 3-month mark. And so 3 months in now, having done a couple of treatments of injections around your hair follicles, we'll start to see some change in the dynamics of the different phases of our hair cycles. We have a growing phase, a resting phase, and a falling out phase. So we've been trying to shift a bunch of your hairs.
Avoid that last one.
Yeah, exactly. We want to get rid of that. We want to make the growth phase longer. That means you shed fewer hairs. The hairs you do have get...
I just want to look smarter while you're talking to me. So
the hairs you do have get thicker. And so at this phase, we may notice some thickening of your hairs and some decrease in the loss at this point. So we're just kind of getting on a hair cycle schedule here. Keeping it, looks like it's doing pretty well. Like it's growing, getting thicker.
my hair is sprouting. It's all slicked back right now, but every time I've been going to the barber, because I started going to the barber, which is crazy because now I'm paying like $40 for a haircut. In the past, I've always been like those Super Saver $7 haircut guys. Every time I go in, she's like, your hair is so healthy, it's growing so fast. What are you doing? I'm like, well, in addition to like, you know, all the stuff Cameron and I have talked about in other episodes, like red light and collagen and taking care of my hair, we've been doing these treatments. So
yeah, awesome. So we do the blood draw, which we can kind of get rolling right now. After we do the blood draw, we spin it in a centrifuge. The centrifuge helps differentiate via gravity and weight, molecular weight, the PRP, which is platelets that are housed in plasma. We want that. That's where all the growth factors live.
talk to them, project at the mic.
We want the growth factors out of the PRP to come kind of to the middle of the section. So we'll show you what it looks like afterwards. We separate out the red blood cells so we can get different densities of PRP, different concentrations based off what we're after. So this first part is just a quick little blood draw.
Are we allowed to show this on Instagram without getting banned?
Ooh,
Blood?
I think
we can.
I think we'll be
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We can kind of zoom in here.
Okay. So for those of you who are queasy, oh, here's your glasses. For those of you who are queasy, you may want to avoid this. This is called blood. People have it inside of their bodies, and some people get sick when they see it. Ironically. Jessa, any questions coming in that are interesting as we go here?
Not so far. They're complimenting your hair growth.
All right.
There it is. So that's good.
There it is.
They want to know how to grow eyebrows.
Oh, good question. So eyebrows have a similar type of growth pattern that our hair does. They have a little bit of a different duration of their hair cycles. That's what makes eyebrow hairs and other hairs on our body a little bit different than our hairs on our head. But PRP is a great option for eyebrow hairs. We do eyebrow hair transplants as well for people who get a little bit thin there. Eyebrow hairs are especially hormonally sensitive with things like thyroid hormone issues. So if you're noticing changes in your brow hairs, it's maybe worth looking at your thyroid for that. So fun fact there. Fun fact there.
Cool.
It's a good question.
I can pressure this one.
Yeah, with our hair growth and hair transplantation, I'll switch sides with you.
She missed, don't tell.
I know, I'm terrible.
We can do things like body hair transferred to brows. We can do body hair transferred to the head, kind of whatever we need. But
You can transfer your pubes to your eyebrows.
Yep.
That's disgusting.
That's this result right here. Can't you tell?
Yeah.
Pube brows.
Yeah, so beard hair and brow hair are probably two of the most kind of increasing areas for hair cancer or rejuvenation with PRP. Both really higher areas to restore.
Okay.
I think it was a woman.
Okay, yeah.
We also got a question about if diet helps with graying hair,
Well,
which I don't know.
Diet?
diet and graying hair is
Absolutely. We covered that, like free radicals
Yep.
and peroxynitrite formation
Yep.
from, you know, the... Oh, you missed that one.
No.
Come on.
So yeah, the oxidative portion can contribute to sort of early graying. There's a really pro-oxidative environment, and so that's where sort of diet can play in a little bit into that whole thing. So it's a hard question to answer because in general, it's just normal for our hairs to be a little bit genetically programmed to gray. So to say that diet is going to save or change that, it's probably not a realistic expectation, but there can be a contribution from time to time. So.
They're asking how much blood are you taking?
Oh yeah, good question. So PRP comes in lots of different forms, shapes, and sizes, as I was mentioned before, as far as densities go. For hair, I like to hyper-concentrate it, and I use this little matrix in there that's like a fibrin matrix. So when we do that, we draw 60 cc's of blood, 60, for post-surgical restoration after higher platelet density with what we're injecting. So more growth factors per volume of PRP that we're injecting. So after we do
Show them all the blood that's collecting right here.
there we go.
Okay.
So that this is like all the blood that they're going to use to make the most expensive kind.
But after we get this dry out of here, we'll run this through a concentrator to get it even more concentrated than it
There
is
you
at
go.
baseline.
Thanks, Amy.
So,
Are there any good hair doctors in California? No, you should come to Cameron's.
Beverly Hills.
It's worth the trip.
It kind of shocked me because I had like a bunch of people from like California, like Beverly Hills and all these, and they're like, I'm like, really? You don't have any of what Cameron does, like easily you can't swing a dead cat by the tail without hitting an anti-aging duck, but
yeah, but they're not all good.
Well, yeah, they're not necessarily good. Like, and you know, obviously I'm biased because Cameron is a friend, but I've been terribly impressed. And you guys can fly up here, and do like we do. Go get a treatment from Cameron, and then talk him into going out to dinner afterwards.
Yep. Yeah, we have a lot of folks traveling. There's good docs everywhere. Usually people sort of find somebody who they gravitate towards that sort of matches their maybe mindset and philosophy about kind of treating things. And yeah, it's interesting. You're never a prophet in your own backyard, so sometimes your friends don't realize.
I know, seriously.
Yeah.
No, but
I got another good question. What about too much hair growth for women with PCOS?
PCOS. That, I mean, I'll comment on that briefly. That, you know, back to the diet issue. You know, a big issue with that is insulin management for PCOS, along with autoimmune management, meaning a really clean, like slightly lower carb, paleo autoimmune-ish type of approach. There's a lot of other things you can do for PCOS, but for me, that tops the list for women with PCOS is like insulin management and a really super clean autoimmune-based diet. It's just like, and if you go and listen to podcasts, I've got big podcasts I've done on PCOS. There's other things you can do, but I don't know if you agree, Cameron, but the insulin management is huge for that.
For sure, absolutely. So which makes me wonder about things that don't have a ton of evidence behind them, about, you know, insulin and blood glucose regulation. What about like you guys have peon lean?
Yeah, I mean, for PCOS, any blood glucose disposal agent, berberine, dihydroberberine, bitter melon, apple cider vinegar, Ceylon cinnamon, you know, things that help to stabilize insulin levels, even sauna. It's prudent to weave those in, but don't use those as a band-aid for a diet that has either autoimmune triggers like wheat, soy. Dairy is a big one for PCOS because it's so insulinogenic. Like, instead, pair those with more of like a cyclic ketogenic approach where you're giving your adrenals and your endocrine function a chance to get enough carbohydrates on board, but you're not constantly spiking insulin. So just be super careful with, you know, dairy, wheat, soy, even sometimes seeds, nuts, nightshades. Like, look up something like the paleo autoimmune diet, or even like a carnivore-ish approach, but also where you're weaving in like berries and honey and certain things like that. But then think of supplements like a blood glucose disposal agent as the icing on the cake, not as a Band-Aid.
And go ahead.
PCOS is a great question though when you're talking about hair, because a lot of times that may be one of the first things that you notice with it. Some of those external signs or cutaneous signs of PCOS can include, you know, hair growth, acne, and things like that. So anybody who does have that, that's just a good sign to maybe think about digging a little bit deeper, because those can be the first things that we see sometimes. And it's not uncommon. That's a first presentation. So like Ben's saying, you know, that could be just an external or outward manifestation of a lot of internal things that are happening that are important to look at as well.
Joey's still there.
Yeah, you're fine right there. Okay. Are you comfy?
This is a common question that's coming up. Is how much does this generally cost?
Yeah, that's a good question. So
$1 million.
You're going to find varying prices on this based off of where you're going. So what you just saw with us was like, we're hand drying this. We have our own system. We do this. This is a very labor intensive thing. So our prices are going to be, you know, depending on how many treatments we're doing, buying packages and things, call it like roughly $1,000, $1,200, $1,400, something like that, depending on what comes with it. You may find it less expensive other places, but then I would question, like, are they using just a canned off-the-shelf system? Who's doing it? What kind of devices are they using?
Yeah, you don't want to go to the place that's got like donkey PRP. Be careful. Don't go down to Mexico for your PRP treatments.
Right. Well, and you're looking at the
Tijuana
concentration, what you're getting out of it. Like, so, you know, efficacy, basically, long story short. And you can find it for probably less than that, but with just less efficacy. People who aren't doing it as often. There's certainly a safety profile to look at with it too. There's reports of people getting like bloodborne, you know, diseases, HIV, even with like getting PRP from like vampire facials or microneedling or whatever. So, you know, like go to somebody who's in a medical facility who is going to be used to handling like, you know, human tissue.
Only get it done by someone wearing a T-shirt that says "Trust me, I'm a doctor."
Oh, I've got that under this one.
Yeah, that's my MO.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Okay. Any advice on eczema or acne?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back real quick to
the
price per treatment, because that's a good question too. My next question would be like, great, that's the price per treatment. How many of these treatments are you doing? What does that look like? And in general, a PRP session when we're kicking it off is a little bit based off of what somebody's trajectory is. If they come in and they are like that 20-something-year-old guy who's aggressively balding. Now we're fighting a big uphill battle with that person. So that's going to be a PRP regimen where probably for the first hair cycle, so call it 4 months or 3 months, we are treating once a month every single part of that cycle that we can. We're blitzing it, we're going after it. Then we're treating at least once a cycle after that. So that person's getting maybe call it 4 treatments a year. That's a pretty aggressive profile. Most folks that come in that are like noticing some thinning, wanting to do something non-surgical about it, they're doing their treatments with PRP once a year, twice a year, maybe a little bit less frequent than that. So those folks, if you do the math there, you're spending a couple $1,000, $3,000 a year for that sort of long-term maintenance profile. That's usually based off of what somebody's noticing, because they'll notice like, oh, I was doing really well, I wasn't losing any hair, and now it's been 6 months and I'm noticing my shedding increasing a little bit. Great, so you can retreat with PRP and kind of catch back up with it. So I think in addition to the price per, gets a little bit into like, what's your unique situation, how many are you going to need? And again, of course, how well is it going to work? What kind of PRP are you getting?
Okay. I'm getting a lot of other languages that I can't read.
Portuguese.
Do you do hair transplants?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, hair transplants are a really excellent and awesome procedure that's super, super minimally invasive, simple to do, and arguably probably one of the most rejuvenative procedures we do in plastic surgery. It's advanced so much, even in the last decade, really, where we're taking like little individual hair follicles, like one by one, going after hair follicles and sort of moving them to the locations that we want, which allows us to precisely recreate densities, directions, angles, like all kinds of fun things that have to do with our hairline. And we can recreate those like very, very naturally that way. It's a very labor intensive, but like I said, relatively low key, simple procedure to do.
Okay, the question was, what are better, exosomes or PRP?
Ooh, I love this question. So we talked about this, I think, in our last podcast too. So I like to just lump all these together. Let's talk stem cells, exosomes, and PRP together. So if you look at it from that point of view, like stem cells are using exosomes to communicate with one another and with other outside cells. We call that paracrine communication between cells. So you've got your stem cell at the base using an exosome to communicate, and the method by which that exosome is communicating is the growth factors, which are sort of what the PRP is containing. So they all kind of go together one by one. The nice part about the front and the back end of that being stem cells and or PRP is they're completely, that makes it a little bit easier to swallow for most people than getting something exogenous or allogenic, like exosomes, effective for a lot of people to do even stem cells or PRP, something like that.
And if I could comment on that, for the type of skin-based treatments that a guy like Cameron is going to do, yes, for something like a joints treatment,
right.
You can see, and Dr. Matt Cook and I talked about this in the last podcast that we did, almost like an accelerated inflammatory response when you inject, pardon the expression, too much shit into a joint. Meaning that when you combine stem cells with exosomes, with ozone, with PRP, many people will see like a lot of swelling and like almost a hyper reaction to all of that. And I've seen some people get too much into their joints. Go listen, it's at bengreenfieldfitness.com/cook, where we talk about being cautious with putting too much into a joint. Right. I think that exosomes plus stem cells is a good idea. I think that exosomes plus stem cells plus PRP could even be a good idea. Once you get exosomes plus stem cells plus PRP, and then you add in a lot of other healing factors that would be considered prolotherapy, particularly things like ozone, placental matrix, etc. More is not necessarily better, but it's pretty rare that I've personally plus stem cells plus PRP. Like those three, that trilogy seems to work pretty well.
Yeah, and that's a nice mix of allogenic and autologous generally as well. Fat-based stem cells, those can certainly cause inflammation in our body. Not all inflammation is caused by the same thing. Some of it is like creating new blood vessels, angioneogenesis, that's inflammation. That's a pro-inflammatory part of what those sort of growth factors and stem cells can do. But generally the type of inflammation we're talking about that causes damage and is more like breaking down, catabolic types of inflammation, that is more common with allogenic outside sources of tissue in us.
Yeah. Another URL shout out for those of you who want to learn more about Cameron's clinic, bengreenfieldfitness.com/clinic5C, the number 5, the letter C. Cameron and I have done 2 kind of long form podcasts on a lot of this stuff. And if you go to my website and search for Cameron's name, Cameron Chestnut, FA2QM, C3PO,
Yes.
you'll be able to listen to 2 podcasts where we've taken a deep dive, long form.
Right. And at the end of that second one is the common question with that Clinic 5C. Why is it called Clinic 5C? So that's at the end of the second one. Go check it out.
Yeah, we talk about why it's called Clinic 5C. Go listen to the podcast.
Super secret.
It's a secret. Yeah.
All right.
Do we got any more? More
Well,
questions?
there was one on eczema. A couple of questions on eczema.
That's a foreign language. Some people are typing in
I don't know what a lot of it is.
Iranian. A lot of Iranian. I don't think Instagram Live has the ability to be able to
translate it.
To translate that.
Dr. Nia, one of our fellows, speaks Farsi. I don't know if that's going to help.
We talked about hair growth. We talked about gray hair. We talked about acne, eczema, things like that.
We actually didn't talk about. Oh, you mean in your podcast? Okay.
Someone did ask about acne and eczema. Jessa, you've actually, and people can hear you even when the mic isn't facing you. You've actually had to deal with that quite a bit. What have been some of your big wins?
Adding fat into my diet helped me a lot, and probably not eating as much dairy was a big one for me.
Yeah.
With your acne, or with your eczema, or both?
And also, I ran too much, so there was a lot of hormonal stuff going on there too.
Kind of similar to PCOS. I witnessed Jessa adopt what might arguably be considered a little bit more of like a paleo-esque, slightly lower sugar, slightly higher healthy fat type of approach. And just that switch alone seemed to help with her eczema quite a bit.
Well, it was more acne. I don't have a lot of eczema. But there's a good question here. Can you do this kind of stuff with like autoimmune or MS? Like, does that affect it at all?
Yeah, and that's one of the nice parts about the autologous nature of this is the answer is yes, you can. So we're not using any immune cells here. We're not stimulating. We're not changing anything that might sort of trigger. We're not bringing any outside tissue that could trigger something that would be autoimmune. So these are actually treatments that we use. A lot of people get alopecia, just means hair loss, and so a lot of people will get autoimmune-related types of alopecia, where these hair follicles become shut down, or at the worst case, even scarred down because of some autoimmune inflammation. And PRP is an excellent treatment for a lot of those types of autoimmune alopecias. So they can be used in that. It's a really good question.
Okay. All right.
How's your hair journey overall? What's going on with it?
I've been super happy with what I've experienced. A couple months we're doing these treatments. The 1-2 combo of GHK copper peptide and C60 like daily on both my beard and my hair, along with like really massaging that in very well. I've been paying a lot of attention to my collagen and my amino acid intake. I've been I'm pretty careful with like tight fitting gear on the head, hats, stuff like that, but I do get a lot of sunlight exposure to my head. I do a lot of infrared light therapy and make sure that the scalp gets exposed to that. I'm gonna be 40 in a couple of months, and honestly, like, I'm loving how much hair I'm actually growing and the health of it. So far, I would say that dropping in every couple of months for a more like intensive, invasive protocol like we're doing today, and then combining that. Ask my lover if she's happy with it. Is that okay, babe?
You look good.
Feel good?
Yes.
You've been standing on your head more, hanging from your...
I actually, not because I'm convinced that it helps with hair growth, but I still do inversion. For like 5 to 10 minutes a day, I'll hang from an inversion table or a yoga trapeze or anything that kind of like gets my feet up and the blood down in my head. And I don't know if it makes you smarter or makes your hair grow, but it certainly makes my joints feel better.
Change your microcirculation.
Yeah. Somebody asked
a lot of the things you just mentioned are all microcirculation based types of massages.
It's kind of funny because when I cook, you know, I use a lot of extra virgin olive oil. I use a lot of avocado oil. I use ghee. I use coconut oil. I'll even use lard sometimes or beef suet. And anytime my hands are like all fatty when I'm cooking, I'll like rub them in my hair and rub the fat on my skin. And I know it sounds gross, and nobody's gonna want to come to my house for a steak anymore because you think you're gonna find hair in your food. But I think there's something to putting a lot of those same type of healthy fats that you're consuming. Why not use it to moisturize a little bit?
Right.
And like, honestly, like, and a lot of that stuff, like coconut oil, for example, kind of has a little bit of a natural SPF as well. So it's great for sunlight exposures.
Yeah. The mix there can be, some of those can be called comedogenic, like clogging your pores, called comedogenic.
You want to eat my hair?
Yeah, right. And then oils when you're in the sun. So some like coconut oil can have some SPF. Others can actually help the sun penetrate a little bit more. Because some of that dry skin and scale, the air that gets trapped in there can be a little bit SPF too. So you have to be careful, like sometimes greasing you up can burn you a little more.
All right, so right
Crisco
now,
doesn't work so good.
For those of you who maybe just popped on an Instagram live with Cameron Chestnut at Optum 5 in Spokane, and we took the blood out, and then they spin that. How long does that take?
It's going to take about 20, 25 minutes.
Okay, so 20, 25 minutes to do the centrifuge, they spin it, they concentrate the growth factors. So we're waiting on that to come back.
You guys want to go check it out? Or go check it out?
Do you guys want to see the PRP? And then we come back in here and you just basically put it all into the face. But we can go check out the PRP.
Let's see where they're at. Let's see what's going on here.
Let's go check it out.
Is this the hemococ?
We'll follow you
pretty cool.
in the top secret Batman labs here.
Go in here. Come in here.
Okay. We won't come in yet.
Where are we at? Almost done. Oh, well, that's boring. Less
Okay,
exciting.
that's boring.
It's not
All right.
okay.
We're almost done.
You guys keep going. I drank way too much Zevia on the way down.
Oh, maybe.
Right.
Okay, we can come back in. See if there's
Well, some person keeps asking about ulcer colitis.
Oh, yeah, you see. What's the question about ulcer colitis?
She just keeps asking to talk about that.
Oh, well, that's not exactly my area. of
Okay, I was
expertise.
like, I don't know what she wants.
To do with
She
it.
keeps, yeah.
Certainly
Okay.
a pro-inflammatory state though to be in. You know,
Yeah.
we talked about acne a little bit, which pairs with some of those things. It's oftentimes part of an inflammatory sort of cascade that can happen. So can eczema. Someone's asking about eczema. Can certainly be part of any sort of hypersensitivity, even of our airways. It's, tightly related to asthma, hay fever, things like that. So your skin can certainly tie in.
Can you transplant hair onto eyebrows?
Yes, that's a great question. And as I was talking about this a little bit earlier, as we were talking about hair transplants, everybody thinks of their head as the main place to transplant, and there's certain limitations to that. You can actually take body hairs. Usually it's men with a lot of body hair you can transfer to the head. But eyebrows and beards are definitely the most increasing areas where we're doing hair transplants. Women, especially with the brows, it's really restorative and rejuvenative to do that.
What about somebody who has like a thyroid problem? Is that?
Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, anytime there's like eyebrow hair issues, that's strongly tied or can be strongly tied hormonally, specifically to thyroid versus like testosterone and things like our scalp is. And so that's always the first place before we do any transplantation or anything. We always look there. A lot of times people will try non-surgical options like they will with this PRP like we're going to do today. But then from a transplant standpoint, brow transplant's very durable, very restorative, does really, really well.
Okay. Is it better to microneedle with PRP or just go deeper?
Oh, that's a great question too. We talked about this a little bit on one of our podcasts. So microneedling is just an injury, right? A controlled injury that we're doing to the skin. Going deeper, injures deeper, can do a little bit more stimulation, but in my opinion and some evidence backing that PRP is the real hero of that story when you're doing microneedling with PRP. PRP is going to change the milieu, change the growth factor profile, create more elastin than it does collagen. And we all talk about collagen. That's what everybody wants to create. We all talk about eating it, getting more on our skin, and that's the structural strength of our skin, the rebar, if you will. But the real thing that changes, the more fragile part of it, is our elastin, and that's what makes us lax, not rebound, get wrinkles, things like that. It's not that our skin's tearing apart, it's just losing elasticity. So all that being said, I think that microneedling with PRP is far, far superior to microneedling alone. A lot of it is in that creation of elastin that happens in the long run. So in that first 2 weeks, you may not notice a huge difference one way or the other. You may be The evidence shows you get your redness goes away faster when you do lasers or PRP, or lasers and microneedling with PRP. At the long run, you're going to build more lasting tissue. So really important.
So on the same line, is it better to do 1 or like 4 vials of PRP with microneedling? Does it matter the amount that goes on your face?
I mean, you're talking about a volume here. It's really going to be more dependent on concentration, the type of PRP. What we talked about before, not all PRP is created equal, not even close to equal. Actually, there's very, very different types of PRP, and that's where you're going to find price differences in who's doing it. Are you doing it like a med spa with a, esthetician, or what does it look like versus doing it in a physician office where where you have multiple centrifuges, we're doing fat transfer, we're doing lots of regenerative medicine. There's going to be different types of PRP. And so the volume probably isn't as important as what you're putting on top and how it works. So,
check this
Yes.
out.
ooh, yeah, here's our hemo concentrator. So this was Ben's PRP, and after running it through this whole hemo concentrator, running the PRP back and forth, it pulls off saline and a few red blood cells pulled into here. And so, after all of that back and forth, we pulled off about 10 extra milliliters of saline and fluid. So we got extra concentration in there.
Wow.
So no growth factors in there, no good stuff, just fluid and some red cells.
Because science.
Yeah, it's got a lot of that. Looks
Deals with a bunch of copper pipes and
Yes.
stuff connected together. It's like
Just
that.
plasma or PRP.
yeah, let's get our injections done here.
All right.
I'm gonna go through this.
So
That for me.
now comes the secret sauce. Again, for any of you who are queasy. Is this the one that makes my face look all bloody afterwards?
No, not that one. Not doing that
Yay!
yet. Yeah.
We're going out to dinner tonight. Shout out to Inland Pacific Kitchen, one of the most stellar restaurants in all of Spokane. We're going to go there and just punish an amazing meal after this.
Yeah. This is actually the first time we're not going to send you out of here looking a little beat up. We did microneedling the first time. We did a combo of laser.
Every time I leave here, I look like I got hit by a semi truck for like a day.
The laser wasn't bad.
Look at you now.
Oh,
Look at
me out.
you. You're a beautiful, beautiful man. All right, let's go down. All right.
I'm not laughing because I don't think that's true.
Do I need an
A
apron?
tickle in my
Do I
throat.
need an apron, like a lobster apron for all the blood spattering?
Hopefully no.
That'd be fun.
Excuse me.
That's a different procedure. All right, so we use these little vibrators for anesthesia. It's real simple, real straightforward.
Okay, so we get a lot of jokes about this, but they actually use vibrators on my head. The vibrators kind of distract you from all the needling that's going on up there.
Yeah.
It's basically
And,
for wimpy people.
Yeah. Cameron keeps the Spokane sex industry in business by buying up all their vibrators.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's definitely somebody who thinks there's a very kinky doctor in Spokane, Washington, buying these by the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works is really interesting, actually. So there's this gate theory of pain. If you think back to sort of probably our neural development, pain is a really important signal to carry. And so it's carried with really important things like proprioception or balance, like vibration, cause pain. Anything that's vibrating or has temperature tends to kind of plays on that same thing. So works pretty well. What would you say your pain level is here, Ben?
Be honest.
Considering the fact that you're putting tiny little needles all over my skull, I pretty much don't feel a thing.
Yeah.
Like the vibrators, it's kind of funny. Right? And you can use this as a hack for anything, like pain distracting. Like if you have a massage therapist who's working like a really tight IT band, and you happen to have someone who could rub the top of your head or rub another joint as you get it done, it totally distracts from the pain. You could also use a vibrator, I guess.
I could just slap you over and over.
That will also work. If you're
Just give you different kind of pain.
Yeah. If you step on a nail, the best thing you can do is
Kick a wall.
Hit the toe of the other foot with a hammer.
Right.
Forget all about that nail.
It's true, yeah. And somebody was asking about PRP and treatment protocols and things before, and prices and all that. And another part of this is sort of knowing where to put this, what plane to put it in. It's not. This has to be very specifically injected around the hair follicles, and a lot of people put it too shallow or too deep. And so, there's a lot to it. It seems so simple and fast and straightforward, and when you do it a lot, it gets very efficient and quite easy. But getting to that point takes a little bit. And a lot of people who may have been getting PRP always kind of start off a normal sort of treatment protocol. Some people will do this with a nerve block, where we do some local anesthesia down here. And that's fine, and it's easy, and But oftentimes that's more uncomfortable than just this is, which is relatively simple for a lot of
This
people.
feels like a relaxing scalp massage.
I think we got a lot of joiners very confused in what's happening right now.
Well, why don't we catch them up?
You guys can always rewind and watch the whole video, but this is a PRP treatment and using vibrators to kind of like mask some of the potential discomfort that can be associated with microneedling. And then they're putting basically my own platelet-rich plasma that they withdrew from my own blood into my hair to induce growth.
All right.
We do anything for the beard today?
Yeah, we can do something in your beard.
This life.
Oh man.
Well, it's really the first time I've really truly like grown a beard and not half-assed it too. But I think
You used to have a really terrible like thin stage that was not so good.
Well, we got through the
And
testosterone is super high, and I've got a full head of hair. I'm pretty happy. It's like
This is fun to watch in slow-mo, watching your cheek vibrate.
my jowls.
It's like a dog shaking his head in slow motion.
Gonna see her in a little bit. She's getting
Hyperbaric oxygen, infrared sauna. Like it's a full-on biohacking clinic. So it's kind of
generation. Some of the key parts for everybody who gets a hair transplant. Because once we've taken the hairs, we usually kind of take them from this very dense donor region on the back of the scalp here, where we want to take those follicles out. We can bring them up to the front, try to design a hairline. You can see how Ben's hairline is really nice in the sense that it kind of has an irregular into this location. They're in a new home. They have to establish. The cells that make up the hair follicle, the stem cells, they will typically dump the hair shaft because the hair shaft is really, really high demand energetically. And they're trying to survive themselves, so they don't want this sort of thing that they have to pump energy into growing. So very often they'll shed the shaft. And so you do your hair transplant and it's there, then the hairs go away, then about 3 months later they'll start growing back in this transplant region. So you have this delay of time where you're just being frustratingly patient with what's happening. Doing things like the PRP we talked about before we even do transplantation, sometimes doing stem cell based fat, but especially doing that hyperbaric oxygen, take some of the stress levels out of the cells and they'll do better and they won't shed their hairs. And all of a sudden you transplant the hair and it stays. So you get like an extra 6-month bonus on your timeline with your hair transplant.
Greenfield men tend to have healthy shafts.
Oh my gosh.
It's really crooked though.
Always
Is that
make 'em
normal?
better.
Curly, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it. Is that normal?
Curly, crooked, healthy shafts.
Curly shafts.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot of questions about beard transplants and eyebrow transplants, and it sounds like you can do all of those things.
Yeah, so beard transplants and eyebrow transplants, we talked about this a little bit earlier, the most common and most increasing areas to do hair transplantation. Beards especially can be really restored. You can change shapes. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with beards. Eyebrows as well. Again, we're usually looking at eyebrows at what thyroid is doing before we do that, but the cool thing about eyebrows is it doesn't take that much, and it's like such a centerpiece of our face, so highly rejuvenated to do that. But those are good questions. Yeah, it works really well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So next, now that we've microneedled, then the PRP goes on.
That was the injection, so that was.
Oh, that was the
That was the
injection.
injection
You already
itself.
injected the PRP.
You didn't even
I'm
know.
glad you were thinking
I
of this
didn't know.
microneedling.
People
That
were
was-
very concerned you were
Yeah.
getting vaccine
Yeah.
on your head.
Ooh, that would be super weird. Super
Like,
weird.
no, this is not a vaccine.
No, this is PRP. This is hair growth. This is regenerative medicine at its finest. Yeah.
Getting my beard vaccinated.
Oh,
Yeah.
Those hairs are super amazing.
Somebody wants to know if you're getting your eyebrows done or have them done.
No, we don't need those.
I was gonna say you got
Might be
good
cool
eyebrows.
since if we do those, then I grow under your eyes.
You might have
So that was
one
it. That was the
brow.
whole meal deal.
We're done.
Dude, it's that easy, you guys.
Nice.
So, long form podcast in which we've discussed like in detail. So I highly recommend you go listen to those. You can even leave comments because we still go in there and check them out and reply to your comments. But anyways, Cameron's clinic, and people do fly here from all over the world to see him. So you guys can do that. He does telemedicine consults as well. Just go to bengreenfieldfitness.com/clinic5C, and that was it. Like, draw the blood, microneedle, inject everything, boom, done. What was I, like a half hour? Easy peasy.
Yep.
That's it, you guys. That's how it works. Anything else we want to tell the good folks?
Yeah, lots of good questions on the beard and brow transplantations. We didn't cover those actually in our podcast. We didn't get too much into transplants. Those were super good questions. Yeah, reach out if you guys have any questions about it. It's something I love doing. Super fun, super rewarding. Long term, looks really good.
We love you guys, and remember, this is not about like desperately grasping at trying to look like an 18-year-old for the rest of your life. It's about the confidence. It's about caring for your body. It's about the fact that we live in a world where you are judged based on your appearance, and I think that it is prudent, not that you gotta like drive a fancy souped up car and live in a mansion and everything, but taking care of your face, your hair, your body, etc., I think is something that speaks volume about your own self-love, and also about your own kind of like perspective on caring for your body, as a divine image bearer of God. And it also is something that we know imparts a great deal of confidence, which lends itself to everything from better productivity or income at work, to better grace in social situations, to a host of other factors that dictate that this is not about, like, let's say a 6-year-old mom trying to look good in a bikini on the beach like she did when she was 16, right? It's about aging gracefully.
Right. Yep.
Aging gracefully.
And I think a lot of that gets paired with like how much effort you're putting into that process. And as you guys can see, this is real simple, coming just from you. Just using growth factors that are already in just using our wound healing response.
Boom,
so
boom, boom.
Using what we got already.
And now we're going to go drink some cocktails and give all of us gray hair and PCOS. So, anyways, check out bengreenfieldfitness.com/clinic5C. Thanks for watching, you guys. We love you.
All right, take care.
I'll figure out how to end this thing.
Last question that people were trying to get